All right, today we are diving into one of the most incredible and ultimately tragic prison escapes in modern American history. So let's set the scene. It's December 13th, 2000, at the John B. Connally Unit in Texas. We're talking a maximum security prison, a place built specifically to hold the most dangerous criminals. But on this day, well, those walls just weren't going to be enough.
This whole story really boils down to just three things. A single date, December 13th, 2000. A single infamous place, a maximum security prison that was supposed to be completely escape-proof. And of course, the 7 men who are about to prove that belief very, very wrong.
So who exactly were these guys? I mean, they weren't just some random inmates who got lucky. No, this was a calculated, tight-knit group of violent offenders who all seemed to share one chilling belief. They had absolutely nothing left to lose. So let's meet them.
Just take a look at the time these guys were serving. The ringleader, George Rivas, was basically doing multiple life sentences back-to-back. You had Joseph Garcia and Michael Rodriguez both in for murder. The rest, all serving decades for incredibly violent crimes. For guys like this, staring down the barrel of a lifetime behind bars, a wild escape plan, well, that wasn't just some fantasy. It was the only way out they could see.
And make no mistake, this was not some spur-of-the-moment thing. This was a long con. For years, these men studied everything: guard routines, shift changes, security weak spots. They literally knew the pulse of that prison better than the people who were paid to run it. Every single move was choreographed in excruciating detail, long before they ever made it.
So all that planning, right? How did it actually play out? Well, it all came down to just a few critical minutes on one very specific day. Let's break down exactly how they managed to pull off what everyone thought was impossible.
Their entire plan was built on two things: perfect timing and bold deception. Right at 11 a.m., when the lunch rush was causing a distraction, they overpowered several guards and civilian workers. They stole their uniforms, their keys, everything. Now, dressed like they belonged, they called the control tower with this brilliant lie about needing to install some new video monitors. And just like that, they were outside. From there, they stormed a watchtower, grabbed an arsenal of weapons, and simply drove out the main gate in a prison maintenance truck.
I mean, just think about that for a second. Their execution was so clean, so flawless, that for more than 10 minutes, nobody inside one of the most secure prisons in Texas had a clue that 7 of their most dangerous inmates were missing. By the time that alarm finally went off, the Texas 7 were miles down the road. And they were armed to the teeth.
But getting out was just the beginning. And that so-called freedom? It was about to come at a terrible, terrible cost. Their time on the run would quickly escalate from a daring prison break into a full-blown national tragedy. The first thing they did after escaping was rob a Radio Shack. They needed cash, obviously, but more importantly, they grabbed police scanners so they could stay one step ahead of the manhunt. And then they did something really clever. See, everybody expected them to make a run for the border, head south to Mexico. So instead, they drove north, toward Dallas, sticking to back roads to avoid any roadblocks. But after 11 days, the money was gone, and that forced them to plan one more robbery, a decision that would seal all of their fates.
It was Christmas Eve. The 7 men hit a sporting goods store. Officer Aubrey Hawkins was the first to respond to the call. Thinking it was just a routine robbery, he arrived alone and walked right into an ambush. They shot him 11 times. Then they ran him over with their getaway vehicle as they fled. The murder of a police officer, a father with a 5-year-old son, just one day before Christmas, it changed everything. This was no longer a manhunt. It was a statewide vendetta.
After the murder of Officer Hawkins, the Texas 7 weren't just fugitives anymore. They were public enemy number 1, the most wanted men in America. The clock was now officially ticking, not just on their freedom, but on their very lives.
And this is where the story takes a truly surreal turn. The day after the murder, on Christmas Day, the 7 men actually went to church. Their faces were plastered all over the news, and a woman in the congregation recognized them, sitting there together in a pew. She quietly got up, walked out, and called the police, giving the authorities the first real lead they'd had.
That one tip from the church led police right to them. They tracked the fugitives to a nearby trailer park just as they were getting ready to split up. The authorities moved in fast, surrounding a stolen Jeep just as it pulled away with 3 of the men inside. They were caught completely off guard and arrested without a fight.
But the chaos was far from over. As those first arrests were happening, 2 other members took off running into the nearby woods. When the police finally cornered one of them, Larry Harper, he made a choice. He refused to be taken alive and ended his own life with a single gunshot.
Right after Harper's suicide, the fifth member, who'd been running with him, was surrounded, totally overwhelmed, with absolutely nowhere left to go. He just gave up, surrendering to the authorities right there on the spot. The net was closing in, and it was closing in fast.
So that just left 2 men, including the mastermind, George Rivas. They actually managed to slip away in all the confusion and stayed hidden for another 3 weeks. But with their faces on every TV in the country and with no escape possible, Rivas himself finally called the police to negotiate their surrender. So, when all the dust settled, what was the final count? 1 of the 7 was dead by suicide. The other 6 were all captured, put on trial for the murder of Officer Hawkins, and every single one of them was sentenced to death by lethal injection. When he was finally captured, George Rivas showed absolutely no remorse. Instead, he blamed the very system he'd just escaped from. He argued that his original sentence was unfair and claimed that the prison system itself is what creates monsters. It was a defiant end to a truly desperate flight from justice. And that really leaves us with this one final haunting question. These men poured years of their lives into planning this escape, all supposedly to get their lives back, but in the end, all that meticulous planning did was trade a life sentence for a much, much faster path to the execution chamber. It just makes you wonder, was their escape ever really about freedom at all?